Hume's causation fallacy. Billiard balls. David Hume attempts to show that causation is just a habit of mind, or a custom, and that it's based on psychology, not reason, and that our mind develops a habit or a custom when we see event A follow event B. In his book, An Inquiry Concerning Human Understanding, Hume uses the example of billiard balls 26 separate times to show that causation doesn't actually exist. For example, on page 26, he states, "When I see, for instance, a billiard ball moving in a straight line towards another, even supposed motion in the second ball should by accident be suggested to me as a result of their contact or impulse. May I not conceive that 100 different events might as well follow from that cause? May not both balls remain at absolute rest? May not the first ball return in a straight line or leap off the second in any direction or line?" I should note that despite the fact that they call David Hume the ultimate empiricist, he provides no empirical evidence for this point of view. At best, this is a thought experiment. How can anyone say that David Hume was an empiricist when he actually never provides any empirical evidence for his points of view? This is just propaganda by philosophers who want to destroy reason. Note that David Hume is writing this over 100 years after Newton's laws of motion were discovered and were shown overwhelmingly successful in predicting the motion of objects. In fact, using Newton's laws of motion, we can predict exactly where those balls will go after they were struck if we know the initial conditions. What this shows is that David Hume is just way too lazy to actually do the hard work and the math, try to figure out what would actually happen. His supposed argument is that because we can conceive something else, therefore it must be possible. A better word would be fantasize. This is the mindset of a child or a witch doctor, not the mindset of somebody who was supposedly part of the Enlightenment. I can fantasize a pink elephant using its ears as wings to fly. That doesn't mean that this is possible. Why anyone takes this infantile idiot serious is beyond me. This stupidity on the part of David Hume would get you an F in any elementary physics class, and anyone who repeats this stupidity should be laughed at as insane or childish. But in fact, the absurdity of Hume's anti-causation argument doesn't end there. He recycles Plato in what becomes the analytic versus synthetic knowledge argument, which Kant picks up and is famous for. On page 25, Hume says all objects of human reason or inquiry may naturally be divided into two kinds, to wit, relations of ideas and matters of fact. This is a straightforward restatement of the analytic versus synthetic knowledge argument. He goes on to say that the first kind, that is, relations of ideas, are the sciences of geometry, algebra, and arithmetic. He says propositions of this kind are discoverable by mere operation of thought. He gives us an example, the idea that the Pythagorean theorem that the hypotenuse squared is equal to the sum of the two sides squared. According to Hume, we know this is true without any sensory data. Of course, he ignores the fact that the only way that we can know what is a right triangle originally is because we sense it. We saw something like it. But more importantly, in fact, the Pythagorean theorem does not work for triangles on a sphere. This is how physicists were testing whether the universe was flat or not, using the Planck satellite. Matters of fact, according to Hume, are the second objects of human reason, and are not ascertained in the same manner, nor is there evidence of their truth, however great, of a like nature with the foregoing. The contrary is that every matter of fact is still possible, because it can never simply imply a contradiction. This is just complete nonsense, coming from a supposed empiricist. What this shows is that Hume doesn't understand the law of identity. In fact, he denies the law of identity, denies reason, and elevates emotions above facts. David Hume is a lazy parasite because his matters of fact and relation of ideas is just a rehash of Plato's epistemology of ideal forms. The analytic-synthetic distinction, or as Hume says, matters of fact and relations of ideas, is destroyed by this straightforward and simple statement. Concepts divorced from facts are just fantasy, and facts divorced from concepts are just noise. What Hume is doing is divorcing concepts from reality and facts, resulting in free-floating, nonsensical concepts that have no relation to each other because he denies causation. Note that this supposedly great ultimate empiricist provides no empirical data for his point of view at all. The fact that modern philosophers recognize David Hume as an empiricist when he provides no empirical data for his positions demonstrates the intellectual and moral bankruptcy of modern philosophy. Hume rejects the idea of causation. Hume is just a lazy parasite who copied Plato's epistemology. He attacks every aspect of the Enlightenment. He rejects the idea of Locke's tabula rasa, citing a priori knowledge 41 times in his book, An Inquiry Concerning Human Understanding. He attacks Francis Bacon's understanding of induction without providing any empirical evidence, just a stupid thought experiment. Clearly, Hume is not an empiricist. Apologists love to say he wasn't actually anti-reason. This is just plain lying, an intellectual fraud. This is just sophists trying to cover up reality. Because if people knew what Hume said directly, like that he made that stupid statement about we don't know where the billiard balls will be after a collision, that we could just fantasize some other reality, and that therefore must be taken into account, they would write Hume off as insane, a little child, or a witch doctor. Like I said, the sophists have tried to cover up for him, saying he wasn't against reason. He wasn't arguing against causation. Yes, he was. If he was just being skeptical, he would have made arguments on both sides. He only makes arguments on one side. These lying POSs are just like the Marxists, always lying about what they're really pushing. Hume attacks causation and reason and the law of identity, and he makes it very clear that emotions are primary. They're just tools of emotional manipulation. They're not tools of cognition. I think this quote by Hume shows just how evil and anti-human and anti-reason he was. Quote, "No conclusions can be more agreeable to skepticism than such as to make discoveries concerning the weakness and narrow limits of human reason and capacity." So what Hume's arguing is that you don't have the ability to reason. So don't think for yourself. You're not capable of discernment. Follow your emotions. Just follow a dictator like David Hume. Hume was trying to take us back to the Dark Ages. Calling him an Enlightenment philosopher is intellectual fraud. He's evil and a lazy parasite. Long live freedom, damn it.